Hey, what's up guys? The Explanation Pro is here. Today, I'll explain an action drama movie, 12 Strong. Spoilers incoming. The movie begins with an old news footage of terrorist attacks. The scene changes and we see a child drawing on a cardboard box. It's 7:45 in the morning on September 11, 2001 at Kentucky. A couple's talking about their fireplace and working on unpacking their numerous boxes in their new house. As the man, Nelson, gets his daughter ready, they hear the breaking news regarding 9/11 attack on the World Trade Center. A group of soldiers are wading through a river for their morning exercise. They finally reach their destination and military vehicles come to pick them up. The group starts complaining about the wait and asks what happened. Milo asks them if they didn't know and someone tells them they've been in the river. Nelson comes into the office to request for his team. Lieutenant Colonel Bowers points out that he no longer has a team since he was assigned to a staff duty at Nelson's request. He directs Nelson to his desk. Entering the cafeteria, Nelson goes to meet up with his former team. Diller angrily rebuffs him and he answers that his decision was for his family but things are different now. Nelson promises that they'll be part of the fight and leaves. Spencer confronts Bowers, tearing his retirement papers. The paperwork was never filed so he's still chief warrant officer. He goes on to convince Bowers to allow them to get the team back together, especially because of their experience. Bauer agrees. October 16, 2001, the team arrives at Uzbekistan. Nelson and Spencer gets a briefing with Mulholland. If chosen, they will be helping Dostum, an Afghan warlord with Northern Alliance, in taking over Mazar-e-Sharif, aka Mazar, since Dostum has the troops, the intel, and knows of the environment. The team will be placed in northern Afghanistan where they will meet up with a CIA operative who will introduce them to Dostum. Their mission is to earn Dostum's trust, ingrain themselves with the militia, and fight alongside him as he makes his way to the strongholds of the Taliban. That's when they call for close air support strikes and the rest shall be handled by Dostum. Nelson concedes to the fact that he has little to no experience, but he calls the situation as it is. Impressing Mulholland, he and 11 other men gets the mission. Meeting with his team, Nelson briefs them about their mission to assist Dostum and the importance of taking back the city of Mazar, which turns out to be the stronghold and linchpin of the entire northern Taliban force. Nelson adds that they only have 21 days. They'll be leaving that very night. They land 40 miles of southern Mazar and mistakes two men as enemies. Some of Dostum's men are understandably upset with Nelson's team and they're off to a rocky start. They hike to a place nicknamed the Alamo and sets up camp. Their escort shares information regarding the current situation of the Northern Alliance. 3 separate militias are left, one left by Dostum, another by Atta, and the last one by Mohakik. All 3 of them are not in good terms. Dostum arrives. Nelson goes to introduce himself to Dostum, but Dostum mistakes Spencer as the captain. The team follows Dostum and offers him the gifts they brought. They start with the horse feed, which gets them lukewarm reaction. Someone suggests vodka, which Nelson agrees to. He hands it over to Dostum, who takes it, opens it up, and smells it before speaking in perfect English and drinking from the bottle. Nelson tells him that he was informed that he doesn't speak English. Dostum merely shrugs and answers that he didn't speak English to their escort. He then goes to ask for the bombs they were promised. Nelson answers that they'll bring it to him, but he needs to point the exact location of the Taliban first. Dostum asks why he's talking to Nelson and Spencer, clears the air by revealing that Dostum's the captain. Nelson brushes Dostum's hand away, which Dostum men didn't take too kindly to. Dostum is hesitant, but Nelson is firm that he wants their help. He talks to him and no one else. Dostum points out that he knows which Nelson's team have killed in combat by their eyes. Nelson has none of it. Nelson smiles and tells him that if he wants to see Nelson kill, he should take him to the Taliban. Dostum easily agrees. They're heading out but are only given 6 horses when there are 12 of them. Nelson shares to Spencer that he doesn't want to split up the team, but Spencer points out that at least Dostum's willing to help. With no choice, 6 of them including Nelson follow Dostum while Spencer and 5 others are left at the Alamo. At the outskirts of Beshkam, a woman is kneeling and crying. Books by her side which a man, Razan, kicks at. He approaches a little girl who's crying, wiping her tears away and telling her not to be afraid. He asks her questions which the little girl answers easily. He praises her, then goes to ask even more questions to the other little girls who were also crying. They answer him easily, which also prompts a man, presumably their father, to beg Razan not to do it. Someone removes the burqa the woman is wearing and Razan points a gun to her head. He kills her in front of everyone. Razan speaks out to the crowd to remind everyone that no girl over the age of 8 should be educated under the Sharia law. Back to Nelson and Dostum and their men. They are now walking through the village of Dehi, which is 12 miles south of Mazar. Everyone is looking at them. Nelson asks Dostum why they're stopping, and he replies that they're taking supplies. Diller disagrees and tells the team that Dostum is showing them off to everyone to show that the Americans are with him. They reach Kobaki Caves, which will stand as their headquarters. Michael comments that they are out of range with their comms, which means he won't get any signal unless he moves up to a plateau to try to get a better contact. Dostum comes out to the cave to comment that Nelson's team is too slow, so they'll kill the Taliban in the morning instead. At nightfall, while unwinding, Nelson asks Diller if he noticed how quickly Dostum's men got ready when he called them to travel. He guesses that the Taliban won't be much different. Dostum asks Nelson why his men are standing guard when he has his own men protecting them since they are his guests. Nelson clarifies that his men are standing with him, not against him. Dostum disagrees, but Nelson refuses to budge. Dostum comments that the difference between him and Nelson is that Nelson's answering to a lot of people while Dostum only had to answer to God. The men finally reach the outskirts of the Taliban-occupied village of Beshkam. Dostum points out Razan's group, but Nelson explains that he needs to be close enough to give the exact coordinates so that the bomb can drop up at the right place. Dostum refuses, telling him that it's too dangerous. He goes further that 500 of his men can die before one American gets a scratch because if an American dies, the government leaves, and their country loses the war against the Taliban. They continue to argue until Dostum takes out his radio and directly contacts Razan to inform him that he brought the Americans with him. Nelson gives the go signal to bomb Beshkam, but since his coordinates aren't exact, they miss. Nelson tries to get closer with the Kafirs, following after him, and one of the men of Dostum, as he tries to give out the new coordinates, Taliban men are moving in and start shooting at them. Dostum calls a few more men to cover Nelson and Kafirs while the rest of Nelson's team go as well. The correct coordinates are finally given, but they retreat back to the caves. Nelson questions why they aren't attacking since they've already bombed them at Dostum's request, but he only answers that it wasn't the plan, and they'll attack tomorrow. The next day, they start off with Michaels giving the correct coordinates and successfully bombing some of the Taliban and their supply. They attack as soon as the bombs clears, ordering the Americans to stay where they are. Nelson notices tanks coming out of nowhere and tries to get another round of bombs dropped, but the plane's out of fuel and needs to head back. Dostum's men are faltering. They're getting killed left and right. Nelson orders his men to cover Dostum and his men's retreat as they head to the fight to help them out. As the men are recovering, Nelson goes to confront Dostum about the Taliban supply line, accusing him of hiding information that they could have benefited from. The two argue with Dostum, responding that Nelson and the rest are unwilling to pay the price of the war. They think like soldiers when they need to be warriors. At night, Dostum wakes Nelson up and asks him to follow him. Dostum finally reveals what he knows of Razan. He admits that he knew about the supply line but didn't expect the weapons they had. After sharing of what he had found from Dostum, Nelson orders Diller to strike a Taliban supply route. Back at the Alamo, Spencer wakes up from his nap. Nelson radios in. He asks if the men were able to acquire horses, which Spencer confirms. He orders them to follow since he split the team again. The rest of the team arrives in Kobaki Caves and they order another strike against Razan and his men. As they're going through the wreckage, Razan and his men are waiting patiently for them. Spencer finally notices the men that they are still alive, by which is too late, and Razan and his men start shooting. Some of Dostum's men retreat, but he insists on moving forward. Nelson orders the rest of his team to cover and follow Dostum. By the time they near Razan's men, Dostum finds a rocket which he aims and shoots at them, liberating the village of Beshkam. At the northern edge of the Tiangi Gap, Diller, Bennett, and Kafirs successfully provided the correct coordinates and bombed the Taliban's outpost, destroying their weapon cache. Nelson, Dostum, and their men are at the side of the Tiangi Gap, specifically at the Shulgari Caves, to stop and take a rest. They're closer to Mazar. Spencer calls for Nelson to inform him that the military inserted another team tasked to help Atta's militia, one of Dostum's rival, because they think they have a better chance of reaching Mazar. Nelson's head talks to Dostum and informs him about the development. Dostum informs Nelson that they're close to running the Taliban back further, the Tiangi Gap. Nelson realizes that this means they can reach Mazar by tomorrow, despite knowing how Dostum may react. Nelson still tells him about the teams assisting Atta's militia. Dostum is angry and sees it as a betrayal. Nelson tries to tell Dostum his plans that will ensure their victory, but Dostum is too focused on the fact that Atta may reach Mazar first. Nelson declares that he'll continue with or without Dostum and his men. Dostum and his men leave. The Americans proceed with their plan. Spencer and Black will be stationed at the eastern flank where they will call for airstrikes. Milo, Jackson, and Essex will be stationed at the western flank. Diller, Kafirs, and Bennett will cover the enemy's northern flank to block reinforcement that may come from Mazar. Falls and Michaels will be covering Jones and Nelson from their sniper position on the southern flank. They start with an airstrike targeting the numerous tanks. Before Spencer can give out the new coordinates, a group of Taliban men comes up to them, carrying white flags. They're unsure if the men are truly surrendering or they have a trick up their sleeves. Spencer tries to talk to the group when a man yells and releases the pins of the grenades he has on his vest. Those on the northern flank are also discovered and under heavy attack. Things aren't looking great for the team when Dostum and his men returns. Dostum and his men and the rest of the southern flank are hit with a couple of rockets. Spencer's badly wounded and needs immediate attention. They need to target BM-21 or they'll get another bad hit again. With no choice, Nelson leads the charge towards the BM-21. Dostum's men immediately follows after him. As the men are winning, Razan tries to flee, but his car falls into a ditch. Dostum walks up to him, and before he can point at Dostum, he's shot on the head. The medevac arrives just in time as the fight finishes. They load Spencer up immediately as soon as it lands. This time, they're chasing after Dostum, who's heading for Atta. Nelson worries that Dostum is planning on killing Atta. He calls for Dostum, but the other man is already close to Atta. Surprisingly, he greets Atta and makes peace with him for now. The movie ends with Spencer keeping his promise and coming home to his family. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and also subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. See you in the next video.